when you visit different websites, you realize that the way it appears is totally different from the way your HTML appears. Let's say you have a headline, you have paragraphs, you have images, and then you view it on a browser. You realize it's totally different. But when you visit most websites, for example, this website here for Apple Shop, that's the Apple website, you realize they have here like paragraph, or maybe they have the headline here and maybe a paragraph here, and then you realize they're like in a container. So you have this, it's a container on its own, a container, like that. Okay, so you can see the way it appears is totally different from your usual HTML. Okay, you can see they have used CSS for different colors and probably CSS for displaying also the layout. Okay, so when you visit, let's say Microsoft, you can realize they have here. Okay, so you can see this could be you have different images. Okay, and then you have different ways it appears, or the way it displays here, like that. Okay, and I have here another website. It belongs to a church. The church is called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have their logo here, and then they have a place where you can change language. They have here the menu. Then you have here like an event which is in form of a banner. Then you can see this and all this. So you realize that for you, probably the way your HTML content looks like is it starts from the top coming downward. Okay, so the reason why all this they look the way they look is because of something called CSS Layout. Okay, so CSS Layout, it helps you to display your content in a way that you like. Let's say you want maybe a headline to appear on this way, and then you want a section of paragraphs or divs to appear in a certain way. All that I use the CSS Layout. Okay, so today I'll be just focusing more on this positioning, but there are other CSS layout methods. In reality, positioning isn't really a layout, but it's just a way you can move your elements from maybe a certain place to a new place, and we'll be seeing that today. Okay, but when it comes to a layout, you have the grid layout. We'll be talking more about it maybe next week. And then you have flexbox. Okay, and then you have floats. Okay, so when you look at magazines, I have here, you realize you have like an image, and then the text wraps around it. Okay, you have something like this, an image, and then you have the text wrapping around it. Okay, so that's usually has to do with float. Okay, so it has to do with floats, and so it either floats it to the left or to the right, and so the content it wraps around it, and that's usually the way magazines they used to look like. Okay, so in reality, when you just have a HTML, let's say you have a HTML here, and you can see it displays exactly in the same order as it appears, so nothing really looks totally different. But maybe if I want, I can move this one to come here at the top, and maybe I can have this paragraph to come down or to go to the left or to the right and all that. Okay, so but we'll be discussing that more. So we'll be focusing more on just the positioning. Okay, and there are different positionings. We have sticky positioning, absolute, relative, fixed, and static. Okay, and so I have here a CSS that I've made, and I have HTML. So my HTML, I have just a H1 and the paragraphs, and I want the width to be 700, and I want it to be centered. And then my paragraphs, I've given them a color, and the paragraph that I'll be focusing more, it has also different color. And so if I look this on the browser, this is how it looks like. Okay, so they just appear in the same way. Okay, so the paragraph I'll be focusing more is this one that I've given a different color. And so to apply positioning, all I have to do is to just write position like that. And so I have to pick what kind of positioning do I want. Let's say if I pick absolute like that. Okay, so if I save, you can see how it looks. Okay, so this is how it looks right now. So you realize that the other paragraphs, they have moved in and they have taken the space that was taken by this absolute. So I can use, let's say I can use like something like top, and I can indicate, let's say, a 0 to move it around. You can see it has moved to the top and we have positioned it. Okay, so I'm just going to add to the entire of this thing. I'm going to add, let's say, I'm going to add here a margin to the bottom so that I can be able to scroll this. So I'll come here and I'm just going to add here a div, or let me add a section, just a blank section. It won't have anything inside. Okay, section. I'm just coming here. So margin bottom. Margin bottom. I'm going to just give it 300 pixels so that I can be able to scroll. You can see now I can scroll. Let me just add that. Let me make it 400 so that it's easier to show, so that people can really get. Okay, so you can see with absolute, if I scroll still, everything scrolls in the same way. Okay, so even though this took a new position, the other elements, they seem like nothing has changed. Okay, so the next one is I'm going to do this to relative. Okay, relative positioning. So you can see with relative, it's still on the same position as it was. So nothing has really changed. So let me just try to maybe indicate, let's say right, and see if it will move or not. You can see nothing really happens, and that is with the relative. Okay, so the next I'll do is I'm going to do fixed. So fixed is mostly what is used when you are on most websites. You realize that you might be scrolling and you realize that the menu is fixed, it doesn't move. So you can see that's with fixed. You realize it has been moved to the right and to the top. Okay, so let me just remove this so that it's only moved to the top like that. So in case if I scroll, you can see it remains where it is. So this is mostly used for effects when it comes with the menu, when you want to have a menu that just sticks to the top. Okay, so that's with fixed positioning. So the next positioning is static. So static is usually the normal way that your thing is positioned. So the way it was, that's static, that's the default. Okay, so the last positioning I'll talk about is sticky. So sticky, it behaves first like the way your content behaves in a normal way, like in a normal float. However, when it reaches to a point, let's say here I've set top to 0. So once it reaches that in relation to the viewport, so remember when you're doing your work, you set the viewport here. So each screen, it has a viewport, And so in relation to that, so when it gets there, it starts behaving like a fixed position. So I'll just show you. You can see, so it moves in the normal way, but once it hits the setting, it sticks. Okay, it behaves as a fixed. So I can always use that. Let's say I want to have a fixed menu on this side. So let's say I want to have a fixed menu. So I'll do here a fixed, like that, and then I want to move it left, and let's say just 0, and see how it look like. You can see. And so if I want it to occupy the entire of this height, you can just do here. You can give it a height of 100%, like that. Okay, you can see it occupies the entire, and then I just want to move it so that it gets to somewhere here. So I'll give it a width, let's say, let me try 300 pixels and see how it will look like. Okay, so you can see. So if I scroll this, you can see I can have my menu here that is fixed, and I'm just scrolling this like that. So you might see certain menus, they're either on your left or on your right, and they are fixed, and then you can just scroll your content and they are fixed. And so that has to do mostly, actually it has to do with positioning. So let me know if you have any questions about positioning, or if there's anything that you feel you can add to what I've said. Feel free to comment in the comment section, and feel free to message me in case you need one-on-one with me. Have a great weekend.